Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel Accounts Gurukul. Learn accounting online. So today we are here with one more content, and in this we are going to discuss about invoice matching in account payable. From that, understanding in detail about what is mean by two-way concept, what is mean by three-way concept, what is mean by four-way invoice matching concept. So considering these two-way, three-way, and four-way matching concepts, how it works, what is mean by that, that's all we are going to discuss here. And first, before going to know the meaning of two-way, three-way, and four-way, first it's important to know about what is mean by invoice matching concept and why that's important. That's all we are going to discuss here. So request all the viewers to be a part of our membership to get in some exclusive benefits from there. Members only content we already have been added 75 plus, and continuously we are adding the more. In addition to that, you are able to get a scope to ask us to create a content as per your requirement, as per your need, and you are able to get a scope to speak with us if you have any query and need any clarifications on that. In addition to that, if you guys are looking for any sort of training related to accounting and finance, either that's going to be your P2P, O2C, FP&A, or R2R, or any software related training, then you can connect with us on our email ID accounts.gurukul@yahoo.com for exclusive hands-on training that drives results. This is one of the important concepts from the accounts payable to know how this concept works in accounting and finance. And when we are working towards any MNCs where the ERP is using to have the accounting in the system. So in that ERP, this is matching concept is too much important for that. And that this concept is applicable towards all the ERP. So what is invoice matching? So before going to know what are all the types we have for the invoice matching, the first thing is that what is invoice matching? When we have any invoice from the accounts payable to process, we have to validate that invoice. Validate it means that we have to check either that invoice is correct or not. And how we are going to do that? There are certain backup documents, there are certain documents with we have to match that invoice. If we have received the one invoice and just we received and we are going to book that in the systems, that's not going to be the correct one. We need to evaluate either that invoice is correct or not. Then how we are going to do that? The one thing, when we have any invoice, there must be, before having that invoice, receiving that material, receiving that services, there must be some agreement, there must be some discussions, and on that discussions we receive that services or goods. And certain things we agreed before going to deliver and provide the services. So what's we agreed, and as per that agreement, either we receive that invoice or not. That's important. So that we have to do the validations, that we have to do the matching of that invoice to ensure that what we ask, what we agreed, and what we have received, that everything is in line. Then only we have to proceed further for process the invoice. That's the invoice matching. Invoice matching is a process by which invoices are matched with supporting documentations, which includes existing vendor contracts, purchase orders, and goods received note or goods receipt note. When we order something, and as per that purchase order, and that purchase order, we have the purchase order in the systems, then what we have to do is that either that invoice is received as per the purchase order or not. We have to validate, we have to check, and then only we have to accept. Other than that, whatever the material is mentioned in the purchase order, either that same is for that same GRN has been done or not. That's also we have to evaluate. Might be we have received the 100 quantity and GRN has been done for the 120 quantity. And when we are doing the matching of that invoice with purchase orders and GRN, your purchase order, your invoice is in line, but your GRN is incorrect. So how you're going to process that invoice? So that's the important from the accounts payable to ensure that the invoice are matched with the supporting documentations. The primary purpose of invoice matching is to ensure that vendor payments are only raised for the goods or services rendered and as allow for accurate accounting treatments. That's the intention. Next is towards here are the various types of invoice matching. That's the first accounts payable automation use three forms of matching: two-way, three-way, and four-way. Now, the two-way invoice matching, what is mean by that? This happens when a third-party invoice is matched with a purchase order, tolerances are met, and the invoice is saved in a database. So two-way match in two-way invoice matching concept is going to match with one, that's a third party invoice that's match with purchase order. So whatever the quantity you mention in the PO, the same is on the invoice, either less than that but not the more than that. It's a partial invoice is going to be whatever the price you mention in the purchase order, that's the same on the invoice. Whatever the taxes you mention on the purchase order, that's matching on the invoice. Then you have to accept that. Plus, tolerance are met. If any uh, certain difference over there, then that's going to be, if it's a minimal difference, whatever we set the tolerance limit, and it's within that, then we have to accept. So that's the way we have to follow the two-way invoice matching. So two-way matching principle says that one is your purchase order with invoice. If that both is in line, then we have to process that. If we are following the only two-way invoice matching concept. Now the next is towards the three-way matching concept. This occurs when an invoice is matched with purchase order. That's going to be the first thing. A receipt of goods, GRN, goods receipt note, and supplier invoice. If these three docs are in line, one is your PO, second is your GRN, and third is your supplier invoice, then only you have to release the payment and then only you have to accept that invoice. All three components must be within agreed upon tolerances. The information is subsequently entered into the AP system. So that's the important one. And mostly in most of the organizations, this three-way invoice matching concept is follow towards the accounts payable. That's a purchase order, that's a PO. Second is receipts, that's a GRN, and third is supplier invoice. And if any discrepancies in between all these things, then accounts payable team is going to reject that invoice or ask to do the corrections for that. Giving here the example is that if you are doing the GRN as per the PO, from the PO you are doing the GRN, then your purchase order and GRN is going to be the same. But if it's any manual errors over there, instead of doing the typo error, instead of mentioning the 10 quantity, what we received on the invoice, if we mention the 11 quantity, then the issue is going to be, because when you are doing the GRN in the systems, you have the scope to just add the quantity. If you are following the PO based systems, then you have to just recall the purchase order, mention the quantity, how much is received, then price is automatically going to capture from the purchase orders, and taxes also is going to be flow over there if it's automation from the purchase order, or else you have to apply the taxes when you are going to do the GRN or when you are processing that invoice. But if any typo errors over there, then that issue is going to be, might be in purchase order, some different line items is mentioned, and in while you're doing the GRN, you added the quantity against the different line items. Then also the issue is going to be. Second, supplier invoice. Might be the supplier invoice is from the higher side of from the quantity. In purchase orders, you have the 10 quantity and invoice is received for the 15 quantity. Might be the price variations is going to be. In PO, you mentioned the 100 rupees per quantity, and in supplier invoice, it's received, it's more than that, 102 rupees per quantity, then the variation is going to be. And if such kind of issues over there, then we can't accept that invoice, because when you are accepting that invoice, then you have to ensure that invoice is matching with all these concept. It's a three-way is most popular towards the accounts payable. That's a purchase order, GRN, and supplier invoice. That everything should be in line to process the invoice. All three components must be within agreed upon tolerance. There might be some tolerance also is going to be, and we have to accept as per that tolerance. And if everything is correct, then we have to accept and process that invoice in accounts payable. That's a three-way invoice match concept. So two-way is belongs to only purchase invoice and purchase order and invoice. Three-way is a purchase order, GRN, and supplier invoice. Next is towards the four-way match concept. What is mean by this? This technique, now the three-way, we have the GRN, we have the purchase order and invoice. Now, in case of the goods, the next step is going to be the four-way match, is that we have to get the confirmation from the team with actual physical verification of that material. That's the added process. It's going to say that this technique, like three-way matching, requires a purchase order, a receipt for items, and a supplier invoice. Additionally, inceptions information is also required to make it a four-way system. This is add-on towards when we are into the manufacturing and when we have the goods, then these inceptions, that's a physical verification of that goods, and the condition of that goods also is important. And once that's acceptance is over there, once we have the clearance, then only we have to release the payment for that. Might be you are following the three-way concept and your purchase order, your GRN, and your supplier invoice is correct. But if you receive the short quantity, if you receive the excess quantity, if you receive the incorrect material, then how you're going to do with that? So to avoid the further complexity, this four-way invoice matching principle is there. Before going to release the payment, we have to do four-way invoice matching. That whatever the material we received, either that's as per the purchase order, GRN also is created as per the PO, and invoice also is as per the PO, that everything is in line, then only we have to accept that. And in addition to that, inceptions report also is required. That's a physical verifications plus the condition of that goods. That report is need to accept as an four-way invoice matching. So these are all the three concept towards the accounting and finance for the accounts payable. That's a three-way, two-way, and four-way. That's a two-way, four-way, two-way, three-way, and four-way invoice matching in accounts payable. Thanks guys for being with us, and I hope you gotten more clarity about that. What is meant by two-way, what is meant by three-way, what is meant by four-way invoice matching in accounts payable. In addition to that, if you have any query, if you want to ask to create content as per your requirement, so you can put it in the comment. In addition to that, request all the members to leverage this membership. Try to ask as much as questions and ask to create a content as per your requirement, as per your need, and be with us to get a more insight about accounting and finance. And if you are looking for any sort of training related to accounting and finance, so you can connect with us on our email ID accounts.gurukul@yahoo.com. Thank you.